Welcome, everyone, to the You Are Worthy Network. It's so good to be with you. For those of you that saw the live interview earlier today, thank you for being with us. I'm super excited to have our special guest with us today, Debbi Sluys, and I'm going to introduce her in just a second. But I just want to remind you this Monday, hopefully you've had a great start to your week, but whether it's been great, whether it's been meh, whether it's been really not so great, I just want to remind you because I doubt anybody else tells you today, but let me be hopefully the first to tell you, you are worthy. No matter what you're going through, no matter what you're waiting on, no matter what your past is, you are worthy, you are valued, you are needed on planet Earth. So thank you for being with us today. I'm excited because Debbi is someone that I got to know actually just about a year ago. And I'm going to share with you who she is and what she does. But I think as you get to hear her tell you who she is and what she does, you'll see the authenticity, the warmness, and the realness as she shares. But let me set it up for you just for a second. Debbi Sluys is a Christian, a mom of four, a wife, and a grandma. Debbi is founder of the Dare Declare Academy, a coach, a trainer, an author, a speaker who specializes in helping people expand their brain's potential to see what is possible for their future with vision boards. As a former childcare director, Debbi has studied personal development for over 30 years and has facilitated and witnessed science at work by guiding thousands of clients to identify and declare their vision both online and in person in workshops and retreats. Her mission and life purpose is to support individuals to declare their truth and create the life of their dreams. Debbi hosts the Dare Declare podcast, where giant manifestors come to share how they've turned their visions and goals into reality. She lives in the Ontario, Canada area. Debbi Sluys, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network.
Yay! You know what? I love that when I get to hear my bio back. I'm just like, God is so good. Like, I'm so blessed. I just feel very grateful. It's kind of like bippity boppity boo. It's just, oh, so thank you for that.
Absolutely. It was a lot. And just reading that, we get a snapshot into how faithful God is and how much He's done in your life. Debbi, tell the folks a little about yourself. So we have identified you're from Canada, which is awesome. Tell us a little bit more about your family.
Yeah, so I'm about an hour, just to put it in perspective, Canada's very big, just like United States. I'm just about an hour north of Detroit. So I'm on the very southern border in Ontario. And I was born Canadian. I'm actually adopted. And so my mom had me in the Toronto area, and then I was adopted into a family. My dad was in insurance for a few years and then got called to the ministry. So I know, Steve, we talked about that. We've got a little bit of that background in common where you're, in the ministry as a pastor. My dad retired as a pastor. My grandfather, my opa, Dutch, was a minister. So really saw God's hand in my life, like in the earliest of years before I was even conscious that He was rescuing me, and that He picked me up and said, "Oh, no, you're supposed to be in this family." And so at 5 months old, I was adopted into that family. And yeah, I'm married 35 years. We have four children, three in-laws, and three grandbabies. And they all live near me here in Ontario. My one son lived in Western Canada, but now he lives here as well. And even my girlfriends reflect back to me. They're like, "That's so unusual." And I'm like, "I know." So after church on Sundays, they all come to our place for lunch, which, it's so beautiful. So we don't just have to celebrate on Thanksgiving or Christmas, but I get to have my family around me. So I truly have manifested this amazing life. And maybe even someone listening thinks, does manifestation and Christian language, does that go together? But yes, I do believe it does. We do manifest in that it's something that we take responsibility for, which has been my actions. And I, stepped into a career in childcare, as you heard in my bio, and I spent 30 years leading a team of about 75 There was about 450 children in 4 locations, and I loved it. And we were one of the top childcares in Ontario for our leadership and the way that we were with children. But I felt this inner nudge. So you talked about the spirit guiding this conversation. I definitely had the Holy Spirit nudge me, and the nudge was, you're meant for something bigger. Now, I thought that was only me. I thought that, I had this special revelation, like the burning bush or something, right? Where it was like, you get this nudge. Apparently, it's a thing. A lot of people get this this inner nudge.
Right.
So yeah, so meant for something bigger, and so that's when I started my company, Dared to Declare, and declaring my truth and helping other women, also men, declare their truth. And it was, as you said in my bio, all centered around this idea of vision boarding.
That's fascinating that you ended that your thought with that word vision boarding, because I was just about to say, so if you're out there listening, this word vision board, maybe some of you have heard of it. I know I was not familiar with it a year ago. So Debbie, maybe you could just explain the simplicity of what a vision board. I say simplicity, but powerful. So maybe you can describe it better.
Sure. Can I turn it back around on you? Because I'm
Yeah.
curious, because you and I met, and you were kind of green to all of this, I think. Like, you were in the John Maxwell camp, if I remember. And I don't
Mhm.
think that they really, I don't know if they do vision boards. I know like Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, they do, but what was your thought around vision board? I'm curious.
So I've got to say, like, I'm kind of a meat and potatoes kind of guy, right? And I've learned a lot since then. I've kind of wear this badge of honor. I'm grinding. I'm trying to do all these things to put food on the table. And I had some time with a business coach that actually, and this is a long way to answer your question, but I'll get there, that taught me you got to stop using that word grind because it's a victim mentality. And I was like, tell me more. I want to change that. I don't want to have a victim mentality. And the whole conversation became around life balance. A little bit of manifestation was in that dialogue. So to go back to you, like when you first introduced that concept to me, vision boarding, I'm like, it sounds kind of fluffy. It sounds kind of like only girls do that. And a lot of women do that. But there's men that do it too. And Debbie was able to, after a little arm twisting, maybe, was able to convince me that it's really powerful and could help me in the development in where I was and the dreams that I had. And you know what? Now that she's turned it back around on me, I wish I had the vision board within arm's length, but I can tell you 5 feet from me, next to my bass guitar right now, is my vision board, and it's put where I can see it to remind me of the things that are important to me and the things that are in the future, but not too far in the future. And it was a really powerful exercise. Do you want me to kind of explain the process, or do you want to take that?
Oh, no, I'd love to hear it. I think your audience would love to hear it from you. Sure.
Well, Debbie has a magazine, and it's got a lot of wonderful images in it. It's got meals in it. It's got travel images in it. It's got jewelry. It's got fashion. It's got a variety of different things pertaining to life. And you kind of go through that once, you just kind of flip through it like you would a magazine, or at least that's the way I did it. And then I came back to it and I said, travel is important to me as I get a little older. Vacationing is important to me, the beach with my family, those kind of things. And then it's also got terms in it like resilience. And I'm trying to think of some of the others. Resilience was one, dreams was one, and you cut out those that relate to kind of your personality, and you strategically, and Debbie guides folks through this, and she had sent me a series of videos that helped me to walk through this. But your vision board becomes very uniquely you. And I can look at this right now. I'm looking off to the side, obviously, right now, but I can see there's a microphone with the TED Talk logo on it. That's something I aspire to do as a speaker at some point. I see me and my bass guitar, which I have not played nearly enough as of late, but at some point in time, I hope to do that. I see, some images of travel, and I see some images of beaches. I see some images of working from different locations, having that freedom to work from different places at your convenience, at your schedule. You create the hours. I see a description of the word tenacious, which a lot of people have called me that. I hope that's a complimentary term, not a derogatory one. But it's really powerful when you do that. And then I remember when I was done with that, jumping on a Zoom with Debbie, and she, from her experience, told me what that means. She kind of explained what all that meant, far as the vision I had for my future. So it was really, really a powerful exercise that I would highly recommend to anyone out there listening.
Thank you so much. So I want to just give a little bit of, so that you did really well, mic drop, like amazing. But I keep seeing the words over your head about you are worthy. And Oprah and Jamie Kern Lima, who wrote a book with the title of Worthy, they
Mhm.
both have said you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you believe you're worthy of. And so when, like, I think as Christians, we get this extra boost, this superpower where we understand that our worthiness isn't simply in us, just as humans, but that we are made in the image of God. And so when you see this fuller sense of who we are and being worthy, then this is how you raise your vibration, and it promotes the law of attraction. And you then manifest what's on your board. And one other thing that you brought up around this idea of goals and grind and vision is I was at, and I'm going to be going there pretty soon again, at a health and safety municipal fair. And it was like for municipal workers. And there was all these guys coming in, they're wearing their orange vests and their boots clump, clump, clump through the thing. And they're like, oh, what's this? Right. And so I started off by saying vision boards, and I could tell like gloss over, like, okay, girly stuff. And so, but when I switched the language and I said, well, do you guys have goals for next year? Oh, well, yeah, I got some goals. I'm like, oh, what's your goal? Well, I want a new truck, or, I've been married for a while. I want to have a better relationship with my wife, or whatever, or I'm looking to move up in the company or in my position. Clicked, right? Goals. It's like, but I think there's this masculine energy around grind, around goals. But the pieces I think that men and women forget is that it's like if you were going on a road trip and you just, got in the car and were just driving like a maniac down the road. It's like, well, where are you going to? I don't know, man. I'm heading somewhere. Well, for one, you're going to run out of gas. For two, like you're not going to get anywhere meaningful. And so, unless you've got a destination, you've set your GPS, you've set the compass, you've got your North Star, which is your vision, you're going to be driving all over the place, but you're not actually going to arrive anywhere. And so, where is it that you want to be, which is what your vision supports? But more importantly, who do you get to be? The best version of you. So, the vision board is a representation of your self image, which is why it's tied back into the idea of worthiness. Who do I get to be? And that gets represented in all the things you were just talking about, Steve, like the travel, that you get to be a man who travels with his family, a man who can take beautiful vacations with his family, a man who can work from everywhere, has freedom of time, freedom of money. That's who you get to be. That in each of those images, playing your bass guitar on your free time, you can imagine yourself in each of those images. And so that is really truly the key of that vision tied into the goals, that you need to have both in order to be able to manifest this beautiful life.
Yeah, it's a very powerful, impactful experience for sure. Um, so let's go back a little bit. So you were involved in childcare development for several years. How did that transition from childhood development into vision boards? Is there a step in there we're missing, or was it, tell us how that all went down.
Well, I still do training with early years. And what I always say to early child educators is it's not that big of a jump from early child educator to coach. And they can't see it. They're like, what do you mean? And if you think about the term reflective inquiry, which is what a coach does, is that we are constantly reflecting back to our client We're not giving them the answers. We're supporting them in discovering their own. It's exactly what early child educators do with children, is that we provide them with the materials necessary. We provide them with a safe space to do so, but they can hypothesize, they can build with blocks. It's like you build too tall, it's going to fall over. You take all the toys for yourself, you're not going to have any friends. Like, so we're constantly doing this reflective inquiry with children. So there is definitely a connection between coaching and the way that early child educators are. But more so for me, it was about the play-based learning. So I think adults learn best when there's three components: education, entertainment, and empowerment, three E's. And so when you've got the entertainment, which is the fun factor, and that's why I love vision boards, because I'm a big proponent of paper. I don't promote digital, as Steve said earlier, around my magazine. It's fun. You get back to being a kid with scissors and glue and actually feeling the paper. And then the education piece, which is understanding how neuroplasticity and the reticular activation system works in our brain, which actually promotes the law of attraction. So the education piece, and then when you've got your board, and as you see, Steve still got it, it's right next to his desk. It's empowering. It gives you, as you said, that North Star. Then those three pieces together really support a beautiful methodology and framework for people to manifest their best life. So the playfulness was an easy jump from me to be in childcare and moving into vision boarding. And also, because I was working with a team of about 75 employees, what I noticed was there was turnover, there was people that were defaulting into childcare, and they didn't have their why, they didn't have their purpose, and they didn't have a vision for their life. They didn't really have goals. And so I was doing some of that coaching naturally. And so when I discovered this tool that fit all those criteria, being vision, playful, something that was joyful as well, which I loved the idea of, like, joy within the childcare work. It just was such a natural fit for me to move into that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So give us an idea of some of the things that you do with vision boards. Do you have one-on-one sessions with clients? Do you do retreats? Do you do cohorts? Give us, the range of services you do.
Yeah, so I do services, but then I also just want to, like, just say some of my clients. So I actually have an academy where I train trainers. So yes, I do vision boards myself, and I've done them in corporate settings. But what's really exciting, it's become my legacy business, is that I train other leaders in different communities. So it could be cultural. So I recently had two Indigenous leaders, Canadian Indigenous leaders, take the course. And what she said to me was, Deb, and she, was giving me so much feedback. Amazing. She's like, the teachings that you're giving are embedded in the 3,000-year-old Indigenous teaching. And I mean, I had no idea, but of course it is. And then she said, the vision is a quarter of the medicine wheel. And so, because there's been this
Mm.
whole generation lost because of the residential schools, and there's just been so much harm done to Indigenous peoples here in Canada, I know in the United States as well, that she said, there's a whole reconciliation that's happening, this whole movement. And she's like, the vision board is going to be a piece that we're going to bring the kids, the youth, back to the lodge. And so they were both trained, became certified as
Mm.
a Dare to Declare a vision board facilitator. They did part of the vision board in the house. They moved the second part into the teepee, and they finished the last part around the campfire, declaring it. Like, I'm one person. I would never have done that with my tool. And it's just, so that's one example. Another, which is completely different, has to do with weddings. And so I have a little mini vision board called a power word. And I gave that as an alternate to a shower game, like a wedding shower. And so it
Mhm.
was so fun where they got to create their little mini vision board. The bride chose her word for her day, how she decided that she would feel whatever the circumstances were, whether it was raining, the caterer didn't show up, any of the challenges. This was who, it's like a self-regulation tool. This is who she says she is. Plus, the families got to know each other really well with this guided workshop that I did with them, and it was fun. Then I've done it as a bachelorette. So instead of the girls going out partying and drinking, they did the vision board piece as their bachelorette party at an Airbnb. Then we've done one as I have a product. I haven't done it yet. The Vow to Vision, which is a couple making a vision board for their wedding day. And then I've also done
Well,
where you have couples. So the couple makes a vision board together for their life. And I've done that with people premarital, and they actually shared their vision board at their wedding for their guests to see. And then ones that have been 2 years married, 25 years married. So like that's just one tool. You can see all the applications just even around weddings. So I'm actually offering it to 55 wedding planners in Destin, Florida in November, to see where that goes. So yes, there are so many applications for this tool. Realtors, I'm going to be presenting it in front of realtors in Niagara Falls in Niagara as a speech from the stage. So my power word workshop, which takes about 90 minutes, instead of me offering a traditional keynote, I'm going to be guiding them through a mini vision board, creating their power word for their year from the stage with 500 realtors. So tons of applications.
yeah, and that's amazing, the creativeness of it. Like, and I know you're a faithful woman, but when you were starting out, could you see all that God was going to do with this?
No way, no way. I stepped out in faith for sure. And I followed that inner nudge. My husband owned a building supply company, and I was visiting him there for lunch one day. And he's like, I see that look in your eyes. What are you up to? And I'm like, this space would be really great for a vision board studio. And he's like, oh, this feels like I'm gonna have to move out. So, but he was so generous. And so we turned the top floor, the second floor of the warehouse into this beautiful space to do vision boards. I mean, even customers who'd been there for years found out later once I closed my studio, they didn't even know that it had been there because it was just like tucked away, but it was stunning and specifically designed for vision boarding. So, I mean, we built that. I imagined I'd be, running workshops, which I did from there. But then when COVID happened and the world shut down, and actually at the same time, I had quit my job. I didn't know, like, I was going to step full time into this, that I didn't know what was going to be happening. I went online, and then I discovered a global platform and had no idea that no one else in the world was doing vision boards like me. And so then God used the pandemic for me to be able to then I have just under 60 graduates in 5 different countries using my proven process in their business.
Yeah, I remember when we were meeting, you were in the process of closing um the on-site location. Was that about a year ago, maybe 9 months ago?
It
Does that
was a
sound
year
about
ago,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And I ran multiple workshops just to fully use that space. But yeah, it's closed now. It's been closed because I now have my magazine. I don't really need it.
Yeah, and it's make no mistake, even though Debbie closed that facility down, God's expanded her business in many, many other ways, many times over. And just real quick on that, I'm amazed at how many entrepreneurs come from Canada. Like you said, it's a huge country, but population wise, not the size of the United States. But there's a ton of entrepreneurs there, and is it actually true that Canada is much, much slower in getting back to organized events in person?
I think it depends where you're at, but no, I don't think so. I've been to
No.
multiple in-person events. I think it was more conservative initially, like there was places in the United States that opened up much faster than Canada overall federally, but no, we're all back to that, and you don't really see masks anymore or anything like that. So we're all back to
Okay.
in-person networking. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so good.
Yes, it is good.
Yeah. Okay. So Debbie, we've talked about this huge success that you've had because you stepped out on faith. God blessed it, obviously. And, we haven't even touched on, nor do we have time this time. I'd love to bring you back sometime on, you also do coaching, you also do speaking, you do retreats, which we did touch on that a little bit. So, those listening are hearing these success stories, but I know it wasn't always like that too. There was a period in your life where you didn't feel so worthy and weren't feeling that success. Can you tell our folks a time when you felt all that?
For sure. So I had been running my company, and it was out of the studio. And then I was in a meeting with my staff and we were planning a potluck. And I was sitting in the room, we were sitting on the little kids' chairs, looking like knee to knee, eye to eye. And I always brought meatballs. It was kind of my thing. Like I just make it easy. I could just put the frozen meatballs in there, put the sauce on, put it in the crock pot for the day. And I could not get the word meatball out of my mouth. And I thought, well, that's weird. What's going on here? But I was so under stress that I didn't even have the wherewithal to understand how much stress I was under and that this was not normal. And so I was just pushing through. Like talk about grind. Like I was just pushing through. And so I just kind of, nodded my head at everybody, didn't say anything, and then went on to my next meeting. And then my next meeting was with my inner team with the other supervisors of the child cares, and we were in my small office, and we were in adult chairs this time, but knee to knee, eye to eye. And as I was speaking, their eyes got really big, and I looked at their faces, and then all of a sudden I could hear myself, and I was slurring, and I was like, "Well, that's odd." And they're like, "Deb, your face," and half my face had fallen. And so I had like a little mini stroke at work. And so scared, very scared. I called my husband, not the ambulance. I didn't call 911. I called my husband. I'm slurring on the phone. And he's like, "What is wrong?" He's like, "Call an ambulance." I'm no. I was so stubborn. And I didn't even go to the hospital that day. I didn't get checked out. And again, I'm not proud of that fact at all. But just, I'm telling you this to say, like, this is how deep I was into this grind and into the stress that wasn't able to even have the third party view to see myself in this state. So that was in the summer. And then September, my grandson was born. And my daughter, we were laying in the hospital bed together, the baby beside us. And she's like, "Mom, why don't you quit your job?" And I said, "'Cause I'm making $60,000 a year, and like that's a steady paycheck. Like I'm too scared, right?" And then a month later, so I still didn't do anything about it. I had the little mini stroke and all the things, my daughter. And then it was a month later, and I was at a conference, and a woman at the conference asked these two questions. And so the listener might want to write these down. What's the price you're paying for not following your dream? And it was like, my health. I mean, it was a huge price. I'd had a wake up sign from my body. My body's like, "Listen, girl, we're going to shut you down. If you don't slow down, we're going to shut you down." And I thought about my grandson and my daughter's question, and knowing behind that was, "Mom, when are you going to slow down so you can spend a little time with us? Like, we want you around." And then she followed up with the second question, and she said, "What's the price those around you are paying for you not following your dream?"
Mm,
And I was like, "All right, Lord, I hear you."
wow.
And so I remember where I was standing at the back of the room because I was also speaking that day. And the speakers were at the back listening to other speakers. And I remember standing there and thinking, this is it. I need to leave my job. I need to just trust God and go all in on my company, Dare to Declare. So that was October. And so then I gave my notice in January 2020, and then COVID hit. And I really felt like God was really testing me, pushing me out of the nest.
Yep.
But I would not have created my power word workshop, which was my little tester to try to see what this workshop might do online. And then I told you the rest already. So, but those were scary days with my health scare, and then really making that decision to leave.
Wow. How many years ago was that?
That was in 2019. So that's just like 4 years, like 5 years ago,
Yeah,
4.5 years ago.
almost
Almost.
6.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Well, so it's amazing how God blessed your faith, and it's amazing how you listen. Yeah, I get the stubborn part. It took you a little while to listen and follow. Um, but from that time of a stroke to making those decisions, and that's a whole nother conversation too, making decisions, right? But what is the cost of not following your dream and not being able to have that quality time with your family and all those people that you're now able to impact because you made that decision, because God's blessed it and brought those people to you, that you're able to use the gifts that He gave you to serve them. And it's changed lives, countless lives. So it's really remarkable, that part of your story. And none of us gets to ride the mountaintop all the time. Life's full of mountaintops and valleys, and it's how we respond in the valley. And you did respond triumphantly, Debbie. And so I love that. I read a little while ago in your bio, and because I haven't talked to you in a little while. So would you say that the podcast is the newest adventure, and how's that going? And how exciting is that? Tell us a little bit about the podcast.
So the podcast is already 2 years old, and it's going
Okay.
well. I love it. I've been, you know, you, for me, I don't just pick up the phone and go, "Hey, Mr. Influencer, do you want to have a conversation?" But I can say, "Hey, Mr. Influencer, Mrs. Influencer, would you like to be on my podcast?" And so it's given me an opportunity to have amazing conversations with people that are
Mhm.
in the work that I do. People like Ken Honda, for example. If you don't know who that guy is, check him out. He wrote the book Happy Money. He's like the equivalent to Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor of Japan. Okay. So he's like extremely well known in Japan. And I mean, there's very few people in this world that I've met that really understand money, and he gets it. He really gets it. So I've had him on my podcast. Amazing. So yeah, so I've had some great opportunities. My very first guest was Bob Proctor's son, Brian Proctor. So Brian wrote the book My Father Knew the Secret. And so anybody that's read watched the movie The Secret, Brian has picked up the work of his father. His father unfortunately passed away about a year and a half ago. And Brian was he was my very first guest. And my newest adventure, you don't know this, is I'm actually, because I haven't even put it out publicly yet, but I'm hosting a conference in Niagara Falls in June 2026.
Wow.
So we talked about in-person networking. I've been on a lot of other people's stages, and I was like, it's time to create my own. And so I'm going to be doing that at a beautiful hotel, and Brian will be my keynote speaker. And yeah, I'm really excited. That's one of my real big, scary, hairy, audacious goals for 2026. And I'm also writing a book. So I decided to write my own book. Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul. A couple of years ago, he suggested I write, not suggested, he coached me to write a book. And again, Miss Stubborn Pants, I was like, nah, I don't know how to write a book. That's too scary. I should have. I created a planner instead, a goal planner, which has been awesome, but it wasn't the book. And so now I'm writing a book. I have a ghostwriter who's supporting me, and it should be out in time for the conference. I want to launch it simultaneously with the conference in June 2026.
See, I can't even keep up with you. I'm bringing up stuff that's 2 years old. You got this in-person event that's your own stage. You've got a book coming out. How exciting. I'm happy for you, Debbie.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So, um, we're going to wrap up here in just a second. Debbie, I would ask you if you could just, what would you leave the audience with today as simply a word of encouragement for whatever they may be going through, good, bad, or indifferent? What could you say to encourage our folks today?
Yeah, I'll give a couple of words that will be easy to remember. And I love this idea, like you are worthy. So believe that you are worthy. Believe that you are worthy. So there's three words in the manifestation process. Ask for what you want. Get clear on what you want. If you don't ask, you don't receive. It's that simple. That's even biblical. Ask. So ask for what you want. And like I said, get really clear on that. The second part is believe. Believe that you are worthy. And this is where we don't get what we want. We get what we believe we're worthy of. So believe that you are worthy. And the last part is being open to receive. And so even in my own experience, I've had it where I've asked, I've got really clear. I know that I'm worthy. I believe it. I've seen it happen. But the receiving piece is where the saboteurs, where the devil's in the details, like the saboteurs can show up in the receiving piece because sometimes, well, often it comes bigger and better than you expect in a different package. So we can only ask based on our past, based on our current circumstances, but what is sent to us, what we are to receive, comes from the divine. And so when God sends it, it's always going to be bigger and better. So it may look different. So just be aware of that, which is why it's beautiful that Steve's created this gorgeous network here for you. Because when you have a community of like minded people, and when you have a safe space where you can share your dreams, you can share your goals and your vision, then you might say, you know, this happened to me, but man, I really wanted this. And somebody can say, it's actually the same thing. It's just bigger. You're just afraid because it's now come in a bigger package. What could happen if you stepped into that, you know, to support each other, to see what's being received? So ask, believe, and receive are really the key to this whole process of manifestation.
I love it. I love it. I knew, Debbie, that you would bring faithful, warm, joyful energy, and you did not disappoint. So good to be with you. As we close out, I just want to remind folks that you can find Debbie. I'm going to provide all her social media links when we get the description of the video up. Also, just a reminder to you guys, if you haven't seen a post that I put out a couple days ago, Facebook is taking down live videos now after 30 days, but not to be alarmed because we took all our videos and we upload them to YouTube. And so please go to the You Are Worthy Network YouTube channel and subscribe, and you can watch all our previous guests there on the YouTube channel. And I'll be occasionally reposting some of the ones that have been taken down after 30 days also. But Debbie, thank you so much for being here. It's been awesome.
It's my pleasure. I just wish you so much goodness and blessing as you and your wife continue to minister in new and bigger ways.
Thank you, Debbie. Guys listening, if you haven't heard it today, and I'm guessing that most of you have not heard it today, it's my honor to be the one to tell you you are worthy. It's not something you hear every day, is it? You are worthy of love, respect, and success. And I get to remind you your story's not over by a long shot. God's not done yet. Appreciate all of you. Until next time, stay tuned.